It's been years since I've taken a good look at Cathay. In that time, they've got DLC, free apology updates, and at least one rework. So let's take a look at how to play Cathay in 2025. Let's start, as always, with their racial mechanics. First, we have Harmony. The Harmony system now works on a provincial basis. All defense and infrastructure buildings bring with them some level of either yin or yang, and most of these can be switched back and forth for a small gold cost. This is then tallied up in each province's harmony meter, and depending on the balance either way, the province gains some different effects. Yang dominance brings reduced recruitment cost, increased recruitment rank and capacity, alongside a boosted research rate, whereas yin dominance reduces construction time and cost whilst increasing growth and control. A perfect balance reduces the upkeep of local armies and increases income and movement range. This system allows you to swap your provinces around depending on what exactly you're using them for at the time. For example, most settlements will benefit from being yang whilst being built up for faster growth and cheaper construction. Then you'll either want to be balanced for more income or yin for improved recruitment. It's a pretty simple system, but if you make the most of it, you can get a lot of value and accelerate your campaigns nicely. Next up, the Wuxing compass, and this one is insanely simple. So, every 10 turns, you can set the direction of the compass, and by default this activates one of 4 sets of bonuses for your faction. 3 of the 4 also have bars which fill up over time whilst their direction is active, and these provide buffs or debuffs depending on their levels, encouraging you to swap around and keep them all high regularly. The Dragon Emperor's Wrath can also be activated once its bar is full to inflict severe attrition onto hostile armies beyond the Great Bastion for 3 turns. You literally just pick a direction that's most useful to you at the time, and maybe swap around to keep the bars full if you really want all those effects. Nothing here is insanely strong, so honestly, just set it and forget it. Maybe if you're building up a big army and a change is coming up, wait to make the most of that cost reduction, but aside from very specific circumstances, you'll almost always just pick one and stick with it for the majority of the game. The Ivory Road is the original and okayest caravan mechanic. You recruit caravan lords who have different starting armies based on their traits. Pack them up with as much gold as you can and hope they make it to their destination alive to hopefully multiply that gold and maybe pick up a cool item or two. On these journeys, they can stumble onto all kinds of events like the opportunity to sell cargo in exchange for extra units or avoiding being attacked. It's worth considering to make these armies as hard to take down as possible, since you cannot recruit to them through traditional means. Your caravan lords also have a unique skill tree with skills specific to their role, such as increasing their capacity for goods or increasing their replenishment on the move. In my opinion, you want to collect as many units as possible as early as you can and max out the bottom row skills on the lords, starting with hidden stores to keep them alive. The longer the game goes on, the harder it is to keep these armies alive, so you want to make them as strong as possible and keep them that way. After this, you can increase their capacity and trade prices to maximize their income. Lastly, we have the Great Bastion. This is a bar along the top of the screen that slowly ticks up over time. You can slow this with the Bastion direction of the Wuxing compass, alongside owning and setting commandments in each of the Bastion settlements. These settlements can only have 3 buildings in them, so normally it's best to focus on the defense options to make them harder to attack. They even have a unique set of commandments. Restored is good for healing local armies and garrisons, Enhanced is useful for speed leveling local armies, Patrolled is good for slowing threat increase and any corruption, and Reinforced is useful for increasing their size as quickly as possible. Once the bar fills, a Chaos Incursion will spawn and attempt to attack the Bastion and make their way into Cathay. You simply have to keep an eye on this and have an army stationed nearby ready to push back the invaders whenever the bar fills. It's honestly a bit of a busy work mechanic that adds some faff instead of interactive gameplay, but it is what it is. And lastly, for their commandments, we have the Jade Dragon's Edict, which is the best for maintaining control and containing plagues. Iron Dragon is useful for increasing research speed. Storm Dragon is best when defending the province from invaders. Fire Dragon is strong when recruiting, and Sea Dragon is best for extra income from trade whenever you don't need anything else. As for the different factions you can choose when playing as Cathay, first we have the Northern Provinces, led by Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon. She's the de facto owner of the Great Bastion due to her close proximity. That means she's mainly responsible for keeping chaos out of Cathay, and all her armies are ready for that job exactly. All her ranged units also gain more ammo to launch over the walls at approaching chaos to break them before they get close. Any ranged units in her own army pay heavily reduced upkeep, so she can block out the sun with a tidal wave of arrows, lead, and gunpowder. The Western Provinces are led by Zhao Ming, the Iron Dragon. Zhao is the master trade lord of the faction, allowing him to dispatch more caravans and load them up with more cargo for even greater rewards, assuming they don't get killed on the way. His close relationship with the nearby ogres allows him to pay less upkeep when making use of their mercenaries and grant them improved melee stats to improve their melee prowess. Melee units in the faction also benefit from increased armor, making his faction a very tough one to push past, even without a giant wall. He also pays less upkeep for melee units in his personal army, so can make use of elite front lines for a heavily reduced cost, no problem. And lastly, we have the Jade Court, led by Yuan Bo, the Jade Dragon, and he actually comes with a couple of unique mechanics. Matters of State introduces a couple of new currencies, but they both work essentially the same. You begin the game with 2 tokens of both steel and stone. These can be spent on a number of powerful actions, and once spent, will return to the opposite's capacity after a few turns. So, if you spend 2 steel on Russian recruitment, you'll increase your capacity for stone by 2 and have none left for steel, and vice versa. Every battle victory also increases the speed of token replenishment, so it always helps to be battling. Overall capacity can be increased by assigning commercial and fortress cities. These cities also gain bonuses to their respective buildings, so fortress cities for military and defense buildings, and commercial cities for infrastructure and resources. Personally, I alternate to line up with my recruitment and income provinces to maximize bonuses. These actions are all pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go through each one, but the overall power of this mechanic is decent. The early actions to speed up recruitment and build speed are extremely useful, and the later, more expensive actions may not be used constantly, but offer powerful effects that will come in useful every now and then. There are also a number of balanced actions which cost equal amounts of stone and steel, so will not adjust your capacities. They also have access to an empowered version of the Wujing Compass. Alongside the usual 4 directions, Yuan Bo can also gain access to an additional 4. To do this, he needs to capture 4 different settlements spread across Lustria and build relay landmarks. Once built, he'll have to defend the settlement from lizardmen incursions for 5 turns, then the new directions will be available for use. Alongside all this, you're encouraged to become somewhat of a trade lord to gain vision throughout the map, and this isn't too challenging given the resource-rich environment you find yourself in. You can also choose to relinquish control of your settlement in Cathay or maintain both at once, but no matter what you choose, you'll maintain a strong connection to your homeland through diplomacy. Each capital settlement you own will increase your research speed, and you can make use of more astromancers right out the gate. Yuan's own army pays heavily reduced upkeep for the units that came with his DLC, and can store more Winds of Magic when heading into battle. But that's everything I have on Cathay's campaign. Let me know any questions you have in the comments below, and I'll do my best to help you out. Like, subscribe, and if you want more faction guides, then check out this one on the reworked Ogre Kingdoms.